Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to if I can get the word correct, to our Tuesday night get together to look at a little bit of loose painting and see what it offers us this evening. So I hope you're all well, and the weather's been very kind where you are. It certainly is in the UK at the moment. I think we've hit 30 degrees. So if you're various places within the world, 30 degrees. Can you believe that? It's usually about 2 degrees. That's why everybody drinks tea and sits by the fire and wears a lot of cardigan type of material. But anyway, we don't need that at the moment. So I hope you're all well, guys, and let's have a look what we can produce this evening. So we're going to start off with a very simple a kit featuring Peter the Propelling Pencil as ever. It's interesting when you do find the kit that works for you, then you get used to it, you get used to the delicacy of it, the coverage and all the little nuances. So really hunt out what works for you, and I found mine in the inimitable loose gang. So there's a few guys within that, and they always help me and hopefully a few of you as well to get loose in your work. So hi there, Sania, welcome along, and Jenny from the ever gorgeous St Evenage, most welcome to the looseness that is this evening. So I'm doing it today because yesterday I was almost near you, Jenny, in St Evenage, I believe, and we went to Windsor Castle. So the Queen sends her regards to everyone and hopes you have a lovely loose time. So anyway, guys, let's get cracking. So we've got Peter the Propelling Pencil there. I've got my scamp paper. I'm going to chop the shape down, reduce the size so I'm not falling off the end of the paper. Always useful, particularly when you're starting out. When you get more au fait with this approach. Hi there, Janet, welcome along. I hope you're well. When you get used to this, you may want to expand it more or not reduce because you've got more dexterity and more coordination with the end of the paper, and you can fit everything in. It's really repetition that will allow you to be a lot freer and easier with this style, and also the image size that you choose as well. So it's not a fixed hard fast rule, but it's one that gives you a few steps initially to get to where you want to go to. So got my little square there, or rectangle should I say. Now all we're going to do, I'm not really going to say what it is for a start, because as soon as I say a word, whatever it may be, you'll have your own vision of that, and invariably if you've attempted it once, twice or 3 times, as Lionel Richie said, 3 times a watercolour, then you tend to repeat the same approach. So sometimes if you don't know what it is, if it's disguised, then it will not go down the same avenue. So sometimes twisting things, not knowing what they are, will allow you to break out of that repetitive way of producing images. You're tealess tonight, Janet. That is terrible. That is terrible news. In fact, Janet, I am tealess too, because I've had my actual tea, that I call it, a meal, but I've not got a cuppa, which is terrible news. But anyway, we'll get through this together. Actually, good idea, Jenny. Try vino instead. So first shape, I'm going to do a square just here. Very loosely done, so you see how I'm holding the pencil quite towards the end. Square there, and then I'm going to put an angle going that way, upwards, one straight, and then slightly coming in as well. I'm going to chop that down a bit, so I've got a little line there. So basically, it's a rectangle or a parallelogram, I think they call them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Praise me if I'm right. But I'm just going to do the shape there, and I've got a shape just here. So I'm going to put, let's have a look, a couple of these just here. I might extend this a bit, which you can easily do. A couple of shapes just here, which are those sort of shapes, might give you a bit of a clue. Then I've got a little bit of something underneath, just a line across at the moment. Then I've got a line at the back, and then just here I'm going to do a line across here as well. And maybe put a couple of those triangles. So I know I'm drawing this out fairly rapidly, but I'm sort of making it up as I go along, as I tend to do life, which I find tends to work for me. So I've got a couple of those. Then I'm going to draw a line down there and a line just here. And I'm going to do a bit of shading, which I don't normally do. It'll give you a bit of an idea of where I want the light to be. What this is actually going to be, I'll tell you now, is going to be a bit of a street scene. So this is going to be the edge of a building. This is going to be corner. These are going to be windows along here. I'm putting this in a bit of a grid form so I can get them on. And then let's have some windows on this one as well. Let's have 1, 2, 3, 4. A few underneath. All they are just straight lines. Nothing very spectacular. Cafe scene indeed, Jenny. It's certainly, well, cafe scene, street scene, whatever you want to call it. So I've got all that on. This is going to be light coming down the centre bit. I might have a couple of little brum-brums. Don't usually do brum-brums, but we'll put a couple of those on. There's my little car, my little noddy three-wheeler car. There'll be another one at the back. We'll have a few people, but they're just going to be shapes. Then we'll have a few bits of ephemera, street ephemera, that will add to the scene as well. So, got all that on. That's my scamp. I don't want anything much more than that. That'll do. Yeah, good to go. Right, now what we do, take two hands, go like that, pick up your scamp and move it to the side. So I'll just move it out of camera shot, but now I just want to transfer this onto my watercolor paper. So, brilliant, Jan. I'm glad you're back in the game. That's brilliant. No tea in your hand. Feel unbalanced, unnerved. I've been there before. In fact, I've been there right at the moment because I've not got one. Right, let's transfer this over. So this is my watercolor paper. I'm not as heavy with this as I was on the scamp. The scamp, you can really get it out of your system. Any issues you've got with the day, do it on the scamp. Now, so there's my image again, or my rectangle, just placed on fairly simply. And then I just want to replicate what shapes I've got. And also any lessons learned. So just refer back to the scamp briefly. But any lessons learned, maybe I want to take this up slightly higher, car a bit bigger, that sort of thing. But at least I'm doing it on here and not on the good stuff, which is my expensive watercolor paper. So the watercolor paper is £140 knot, which is a mid-texture paper. Let's get that first square on. There it is. There's the square. Then we have the building at the side, which was, did we say a parallelogram? Can only say it once per broadcast because it's a big word and quite often I get it all wrong. So there's the building that side. We've got the front of the building, which is a long rectangle coming down. Always think of them in basic shapes. Then I think I had a canopy. It's not like the one that Jenny and Janet may be consuming canapes this evening, ladies. Always good for loose watercolours. The canopy over there, canopy going down there. And then we had a couple of triangles here, which are maybe little parasols outside to wine and dine under. Couple here. Again, I'm putting them on, but I might not use them. They're options. Another canopy. Oh, the canopy salesman in this area must have made a fortune. Got all that on. Fairly simple. They had a line down the road. A line down the road. I might even put a little zebra crossing just there. Fairly simple one. Let's put the car stopping at the zebra. All I'm doing for the car is just a long rectangular shape, windscreen, a couple of windows at the side, and a couple of lights at the front. So that may work as a little car in a little while. Not bothering where it actually stands because the shadow is going to hold it in place. I may actually extend this a bit, and will I, won't I? I'll see in a moment. Got that on. Let's have a look. Yeah, that'll do. That's all I need at the moment. A few windows, lines down. We've got 3 lines down, and then I can actually easily drop the windows onto those. Big window, then a couple just along this way. Same here. 1 window, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That'll be enough. Jolly good. So there is the drawing, folks. Now I know I'm throwing stuff about a bit, but this will all come together in the melee, wherever that may be. Got it. Job done. Right. Okay. So let's have a look at the paintbrushes are my traditional built in Britain brushes. So we've got Miss Rigger, Mini Dave, Dangerous Dave, and we've got Big Brian. They're the key players this evening, and the colours we've got are as follows. We've got some lemon yellow, bit of gold ochre, Indian red. Going to use a bit of royal blue, bit of cobalt blue, bit of turquoise, a little bit of let's just check on that one. Rose ochre, I think it is, something like that. Anyway, pink, nice pink. We've got a bit of mauve, sepia as well. So we'll stick with those, guys. So if you've got anything like that, and mine are predominantly Cotmans, which are the cheaper Winsor & Newton ones, go with those, or anything you've got that sort of almost replicates those. That will be more than perfect for this evening. So permanent rose, that's what I meant, not rose opera, permanent rose. And a bit of cad red as well. Last minute thought for the day. Right, okay guys, so we've got all of those ready to rumble. Got the brushes are to rumble as well. Let's see what happens. Brushes ready, paint's ready, water ready, Lucy's ready. Let's get it on. So we're going to start with Dangerous Dave, which is a size 14 dagger brush. A little bit of water. Oops. Tell you what I needed to do. Start again. Clean your brush. There's a little lesson learned. Clean your brush. A little bit of water. Yeah. Interesting thing about that is it's not a big problem. Just get a bit of tissue, lift it off if you don't want it where you put it down. Blue Royale, quite heavy in the sky there. And then I've got a wet brush. I'm just going to drag that down. That will just meander its way down the area. Then I'm going to throw in a little bit of mauve just here. This could be an extension of a building that drifts into nothing. And that'll do its own thing. So you've got a block of flats up already without doing anything. Got that on? Now we're going to go on to the building on the side. Let's start with this area here. Think about where your light's coming from. I want the light to cascade across here, hitting the side of this building, gradually gets darker, and there's a little bit of light here, and it gets darker this way. So that's just a very straightforward idea of light. Nothing too technical. When you're doing areas like this, or big areas, don't get fiddly too early. Bit of water on this side, bit of water on this side. So I'm going to throw on a very weak lemon yellow. Start there and just flick it back. Yeah, start there and do the same thing, flick it back. What I'm actually trying to do is make the tones darker as I drift back. I don't mean drift back in time, I mean drift back from where the light source is. So the light source is really coming down here, and then light, medium, dark. Yeah, very bold strokes. Be fearless. Then that's all wetted. That's bleeding in, but it's quite nice the way it affects it. Just dragging that down. Do the same on this one. Lights here, getting darker across. Lemon yellow. Goldie ochre. And then I'm going to go for same thing, but a bit dark. I'm going to more or less straight for sepia, I think. Just drag that on. Go either way, but you can see the amount of coverage you get with this brush. You're not fiddling about using the same brush 10 times to cover it. So that's a bit of mauve as well. While it goes on my brush, throw a bit on there. Yeah. So the light is just channeling its way down that street. Hi there, Louise, Nancy, welcome along, guys, and Tanya, welcome. You're all most welcome in the Loose studio, which is my front room, more or less. Okay, got that on. So that's bleeding in one section. That's doing its thing just there, or thing, and that's doing its thing just there. So now I'm going to throw on, let's have a look, a bit of Rose Opera, still with Dangerous Dave. Throw a bit just there, and just there. Then a bit of Cad Red, just the back side of it. That will darken that down a bit. So I'm using the same idea, light hitting this side, dark on that side. Let's chuck it on. Let's have a look here, do a couple just here. So I'm suggesting light going this way, so light, light, dark, dark. And again, if it touches the top, fine. If it doesn't, fine. Everything's fine. Got that on. And a little bit of darkness, which is a bit of indigo just there. I think to extend that a bit, bring it down, maybe that a bit as well, just to even it up. Yeah, and that's still wet, so it'll just be seamless. It will be a seamless join of the buildings. Got that on? Now I'm going to go for a little bit of turquoise. Well, actually, I'm going to go for royal blue for a start on the canopy at the far end. Drag along. Then turn that into turquoise. And if it's not a good clean coverage, that's good. May sound an odd thing to say, but if you've got these little glitches and flecks, they all add to the mood of it. If it's really nice and cleanly finished, it's a bit too perfect. So just drag that along. Same this side. That was a bit of royal blue. And again, the same thing applies. The colour gets darker the further across you go. Now I've got a bit of, actually this is, I don't know if I mentioned this one on the palette, ultramarine blue. And if you can see the brush, the way it's scrunged up, it's not flat and perfect, it's sort of bashed a little bit. No brushes were harmed in the making of this image, but it gives you that wider sort of 1/4 of an inch width to get the colours on. So they're floating into the building, which is quite atmospheric. got all that on. Now I'm going to just change brushes. So this is now Mini Dade, which is a small dagger brush. And what I'm going to do with this one is a bit more painting. I'm going to start with a mix of, let's have a look, Indian red and sepia, something in between those two. Then under the canopy, just going to drag a line across. Throw in a little bit of ultramarine blue. And again of span, if that's the correct English. Correct me if I'm not correct. But I've spun the brush round to get thinner lines and angled it as well. So that's negatively painted under the canopy. And all I'm doing there is dabbing a bit down, and they could be anything from posts to pillars to anything you like. But it's really the actual tone of colour you're putting down there that's the important thing. Same thing on the other side, but not quite so boisterous to start off with. Under the canopy, I've got a little bit of mauve and royal blue. Pop over the top of the car for a start. And then get darker as I come along the street. Leave some glitches of white. Under the canopy there, again. Negatively pick out the pole underneath. And that can work there. I think just while we're on the car, a little bit of royal blue for the windscreen and the side screens, and then we'll do the rest in a few moments. Let that dry a bit. So, working our way down the image. Now we're about here, let's have a little look. Let's just throw some shadows on. I'm going back to big, dangerous Dave. Bit of water. Bit of water. I'm going to start with a little bit of lemon yellow, very weak. So I'm not putting too much down that end, but I'm putting a bit more courage this end. Then, let's have a look. Mauve, a little bit of Indian red. Can find it. Just throw that on and just join that into the shadow under the canopy. This side, mauve and a bit of royal blue under the car initially. Now where the zebra crossing is, I'm just taking lines across, and I put initially a few little lines coming this way, so they may pick up some of that suggested line work. Getting a bit darker now. Ultramarine and Indian red. A bit more ultramarine. I'm just dragging long lines across now, all the way across the image. But lines of direction. So this one went down the street and almost finishing where that edge of the building is. And really the front part of the image we can make quite dark. And the far end. So we're trying to get the light just doing its thing around here. a crossing again. I'm just putting a few lines just to give a suggestion of it. And when you're painting into wet areas, they just bleed off, and then a little bit just show the face and give a description of what's happening. So got that on so far. Now while that's drying, I'm going to go up back into the buildings with Mini Dave. I've got Indian Red and Royal Blue. I can start putting a few lines on now just to describe the building. This is the reversed brush, so I'm using the thin end, opposite from the thick end of the wedge. Top of the building, a few description lines. Where the corner of the building started, just here. And then I'm going to plonk technical word folks. Few little lines down to describe the windows. So I'm following the line of latitude along the top edge of the building. And I think we put a few big windows in where you can sit and have your champagne, light refreshments, Prosecco, tea, coffee, or any other beverage. Big window, big window. And then back here, we can put some darker windows in as well. Yeah, so got those on. So you can wave across at the people in the opposite hotel. Then same this side. So look, we've got one there. I think they brought the windows from the same place. Barry's windows. And there we go. Oh no, just to keep you informed, but I did a little trip yesterday, Bank Holiday Monday, which I thought, oh, there'll be no traffic on the road, so I popped down to London town, and luckily there was no traffic on the road, so nobody got the same idea as me. So we went to Windsor Castle, which was fabulous, really was worth a visit. Not been before. So I spent a day roaming around the Queen's house on the edge of Windsor. So if you ever get a chance, drop on by. Her Majesty was almost going to phone me and says, "Don't worry, Your Majesty, I'm here in your actual front room." So now I've got a bit of ultramarine blue. We've got the car. I'm just going to drag a bit over the top of the car for the roof. Little lines flick down. Line again. Over the bonnety bit. And just working down the shape of the car. Just across. Then we've got a couple of little dots for the wheels. And then we're going to do this because it just looks like it's not, it's actually floating. But all we do now, underneath, just join them together with a line. Drag lines down. Shadows just to anchor it to the floor, and also it gets rid of the excuse or the idea that you've got to describe all of the little nuances and details like the wheels and stuff to tell folks what it is. A couple of little lights at the front, maybe a little one at the back, drop a bit in the surface, and I'm also going to drag a little bit of water just straight down as well. Just anchors that down. So got that all on. Now, let's have a little look. Bit of Miss Rigger. Miss Rigger time. It's time for Miss Rigger. Rigger time. What time is it? Rigger time. Okay, we got that. So got Miss Rigger now. I've just got sort of a bit of fluid colour. It's really a mix of Indian red, bit of blue, bit of mauve, just a murky colour. Just loose, crazy lines. And the thing with this is don't be too picky. You're trying to get them straight, because they don't help. You want to twist them as much as you can. Twist them like Jagger or somebody. Right, top of the window, got a little bit of a line to suggest a bit of brickwork. But these are just little lines. Your key thing here is just to make sure they go along the same sort of trajectory. That's there, up there, here, and just straight along this side. Then what I'll do, Mini David, call him by his proper name. Hi there, Jenny. I hope you're well. From sunny San Diego. Oh, can't believe it. Never realised it was sunny in San Diego. It's sunny in Britain at the moment. I'm scorching. I've got a tan. Look. It's never happened before. I'm usually as pasty as my wall colouring. Got Mini Dave. All I'm doing now, I've got a little bit of tone on that I was using for the window. I'm just going to flick this across. So this is suggesting that really dappled light that you don't get very often in Britain. No, you do. I'm selling it short. But these are little lines to suggest a bit of sun just coasting across. So that's just flicking its way around like £125, but you can see that little glow on there. So there you've got, that could work quite nicely, I suppose, as a simple building. But all you need to do to embellish that and give it a bit more realism is same as we did here. Got a bit of a line going down. This could be the edge of the hotel where they've got that lovely stonework. Or maybe not the hotels I stay in. Just got stones, really. I usually cobble some together and put a bit of wood over the top. I call it a room. There we go. Line, same thing. You don't have to do them all. And again, the same thing with a little bit of suggested sunlight dappled draped across the front of the building. Really where it stops will obviously be the edge of the building. So just drag that on. Then canapes. Anybody like one? Help yourself. we've got the dark side of the canopy. That's a Pink Floyd track, not quite so well known as Dark Side of the Moon, Dark Side of the Canopy. So I've got a darker tone, I've got my cad red, thrown a bit of indigo in. Once it's on, I'm just dabbing the brush down to give me those nice little suggestions of the pleats, I suppose, the unfurled pleats. Never used that phrase before in my life, but that's what they are. But really, all you're looking for is a darker tone to describe that on Deadaway. And that should be enough. That'll soften off, bleed back, and do its own thing. Got that on. Underneath the canopy again. Now, I'll tell you what, just at the top of the canopy, I've got colour that's there, which is turquoise. And then I can drag a few little lines back. Then a few lines down. I wouldn't take them any further than that because this is in the distance. The clarity is not obviously as vivid as it is this end. So just people will imagine where they'll fill in the gaps. Same here, but here it's fairly straight line. But rather than just do that all the way along, taper it so it starts at this angle, gets straighter, and it could actually taper off the other way. It gives it a wider expanse of describing the perspective. Same thing, just a few lines across. When you start getting little bits of detail on, it starts to pull this together. So I've seen people who really want to have a go at this sort of cityscape thing. They get there, they get to this sort of stage, but then they get a bit nervous or not sure what to do. The easiest way is to just start adding little pockets of detail. Always think about where your light's coming from. And then when you've got some of them, just scrape your brush across it and it sort of dumbs it down a bit. But quite often just almost get to it and then stop just before you add these little flicks of interest. Post there as if it's a little edge to the canopy. Follow that through. Again, this is now dry. So this is really where the light is really the description of the mood on the surface of the sort of plaza, whatever it may be out the front. Crossroads again. But again, it's not just straight or zebra crossing type lines that they vanish. They get narrower and narrower. And again, it's just a description of the surface. Let's have a look. Right, I think under the canopies we can have suggested tables. Just little marks. You don't have to explain everything. Just a little line, a little mark is enough to interest the eye. And that's what you're trying to do. Don't think, well, how do I do seats? Let's put seats under there. Just a little squiggle is actually more descriptive. Dragging the lines across. And just go onto the car again, not onto it, but you know what I mean. Got those on. Thank you, Janice, that's very kind of you. One tries one's best. There we go. So where are we at now? What have we got? A little bit of indigo. I've just run out, so I'm just putting a bit more on the palette and on my finger. Not on my finger. Easily done. So I'm just putting my dark tones back on. Now, Lady Rigger time. Got a bit of, what I'm doing here, this is dry now. So I can work here a bit. I'm going to put a few little, couple of red marks down. These are going to be maybe the clothes that people are wearing. So this, I'm thinking of this as a shirt. May look odd, but that's what I'm thinking of it as. Then I've got a bit of lone yellow, bit of Indian red. Top of the shirt, little blobs. Again, I'm putting them on, just letting them dry a bit. While they're drying, I put that indigo out that I got absolutely covered in. If you saw me in the street, you wouldn't recognise me. You would think I'm a tube of indigo. Just where the windows are, I'm just going to drop a little bit of this in, just on a line with Miss Rigger. Now, I'm not filling it in, I'm just dropping a bit on. And it is that same analogy as, it's a little bit of mood in that area. Not in all of them, and not the same regular filling in, the same size, same shape. Same here. I'm using Miss Rigger on the side, pushing her up, and then down. Yeah. Bit there. So this is falling within the colour that I put on already for the windows. Again, it draws the eye in further, takes you further into the image. Got that on again. These are still a bit wet, so pick a bit off. And that. A little bit of sepia. What I'm going to do, I think I picked his head off too much. Start at the shoulders. Just drag the image down a bit. Not the image, the coat down. Same here, decide which way they're going, left or right. Then at the bottom, I'm going to flick the lines up. So rather than go down and think where I'm going to start, I'm just going to flick a line up and then make it a bit thicker at the top. Same here, if somebody's walking, it's generally one straight leg and one not straight leg. They must be brothers, they walk the same way. But then I've got just water. I was going to say clean, but fairly clean. Just run some water underneath, and like the car, that will just anchor those guys to the surface. Same here. So I'm chopping around the colour I put on, so it gives it a bit of interest rather than just the same heavy block colour all the time. Again, a bit of water underneath, just bleed it off. And it gets round that difficult thing of shoes and how do you anchor them, how do you finish it off. What we got? Big Dave again. Yeah. Dangerous Dave. Some long shadows. Same again for the car. Same again in front of the building. Dragging a few lines back as well. So when you first put this surface stuff down, you think, oh, that's a bit heavy. But then when you let it dry and you go back, it's quite light. So you're setting the strength of tone relatively early on. So got all that on, then final few little bits of detail. So this is really when you put detail on, nowhere, not before that, because it's just too early. I'm going to have a few bits of street ephemera. So this could be lights or something like that. Where the canopies are, which have some little bits of metal work that hold them in place. These are just fixed lines in sepia or indigo, something like that. Might as well do it this side. Bollards are quite, not only an interesting word to say, but quite a nice thing to put on to give it a little bit of dimension to the image. Got to be honest, I'm not sure why the guys didn't use the zebra crossing. Maybe they're just rebels. You'll be fine, Jenny, you'll be fine. Just do a building. Just do one building. Now, I've been having to go at buildings of late, so maybe I'm on a bit of a building roll at the moment. But don't be discouraged by what looks like the complexity of it. If you look at it now, you'll think, how do I do that? But you've seen the build-up. The build-up was simple. So what I would suggest to people is to just try the very beginning, because once you get that under your belt, then you can just develop it gently. You don't have to go all this way, but this will reassure you that it's a matter of building up the image and not diving in and expecting the finished article straight away. It's a combination of just building it up quite gradually. These little bits are just the icing on the cake, but they do make all the difference. So these little, if you put these taps on, these little add-ons without getting the light and the direction and all those little bits on, it won't mean anything. But if you get that base stuff down, then it will help an awful lot. So even if you just do this side, then move on to do that side as a separate piece, then you can bring them together. Admittedly, this is the whole shebang, but it was in shebang mood. So sometimes it's worth an extra challenge, but there'll be bits in here that everyone can do fairly simply, and then you can work your way up at your own pace. Key thing is, guys, enjoy the journey all of the time. Never lose the idea of what it's all about. And the idea really should be that the enjoyment of the time you spend painting is the key reward. It really is. Always is for me, every day, in every way. Maybe chop this into a, maybe not. Just in saying that, it's ideas that you think, oh, should I try that? Should I try this? You've got all the options all the way through the painting. So when you look at street scenes, don't look at the whole thing. Look at the bits, the component parts that make it up, and then you'll be able to build on those. But don't rush. There's no rush. So again, all these little bits are fairly foolproof now. You can just let's have a look. See, that's the shadow under there. You can shape it, bend it, shape it any way you want it. Right, okay guys, I will finally put my brush down, because you know, when I go a little bit quiet, that means I'm getting really lost in the moment, in the joy of the painting. So there is our street scene. This is, if you've never been, everyone, this is St Evenage. So this is I think this is Jenny's apartment there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, but that's Jenny's apartment. I think when Janet pops over to stay, she stops over here, this sort of area, and they meet just here, and then they gradually work their way across to there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I may be right. So, got that on. Always put one of these on, guys. And remember, every painting you do is a learning experience. It is for me every time. So once you've got the component parts, then you can start to freewheel a bit, but this one will be, let's have a look. This one will be the challenge this week. And like I say, do it to any degree. Just do a little house, do a window, just do a couple of canopies, whatever. Any little aspect of this will be great in your armory for your future loose painting, guys. So thank you so much again for joining me. And we'll try and get a bit of a schedule going, whereas we know exactly when we're doing this. Hopefully Mondays, but at the moment it's a state of flux, quite a lot going on. So I'll squeeze this in where I can. But the great thing is you guys join me every time. You're always most welcome in the Loose Studio, and may the force of loose be with you. So challenge tomorrow, I'll put this on. Have a go, guys. Post away. Be kind to everyone. Enjoy the journey. And I shall see you very, very soon. Take care and goodbye.